right, welcome everyone. My name is Ashley Komarick. I'm from Komarick Communications and Beyond the Wine, where we train winery staff to go beyond the wine to delight customers and turn them into raving fans. I am joined today on this edition of Petulant Pairings with the team from Ship to Shore, an American bistro in Kingston, New York in the Hudson Valley. Our guests today are the chef owner of this Hudson Valley institution for almost 23 years, Samir Hrichi. He's the chef owner, and he was trained at the Culinary Institute of America, also known as the CIA. And he is joined by his new general manager, and Shane McDermott is also a native of Kingston. He's from New York and went away into the world to make his career and life and returned to where he knew he liked it best, back in New York, back upstate. So Shane has recently joined Ship to Shore as the new general manager of the restaurant, where he shared he was a busboy at the very beginning. So what an amazing success story. Congratulations to you both.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to talk to you. And I know I've enjoyed some really amazing meals at Ship to Shore, and I'm excited to hear about your experience with wines and your guests and what kind of conversations you have with them around wine pairings. And tell us a little bit about that. Are they savvy wine connoisseurs? Do they ask for your advice? How do you handle that?
Well, I would say we have, kind of a variety of guests really that come in. So, I mean, I would say, there are people that are very stuck in their ways and they know what they like, and they drink white wine with steak, or they drink red wine with fish. That type of thing doesn't really matter to them.
That's pretty petulant.
But I would say that, especially as of late, with all the COVID stuff going on, and we have a lot of people from out of town, more than I've ever seen in Kingston, whether it be from New York City or Connecticut or Jersey. Just a lot of really out-of-towners, mostly coming from the city. So I think people are a lot more open to kind of having that conversation and venturing out a little bit more as of late is what I've noticed.
So do you think that that's due to the unrest and chaos of COVID that's kind of unsettling, or is it just the people from out of town that are like that?
Well, both. I mean, the COVID thing, well, we're located obviously in Kingston, New York, so we're only 90 miles north of Manhattan. So we're very used to having New York City weekenders up here. They're about, I would say normally about 40 to 50% of our weekend business is New York City folks. But now during the pandemic, we have a whole influx of New York City people moving up here.
Oh, wow.
And when you get, there we have a little bit more of a challenge, a lot more sophisticated palates and folks that have a little more wine knowledge. Not saying folks in Kingston don't, but, we've been around for almost 23 years, and we have what you call our regulars, and they have their favorite go-to wines. And at the same time, we've learned to kind of balance it out, and at the same time trying to sell wines or suggest wines with masks on and so on and so forth is a bit more challenging. But at the same time, we're also a casual bistro. So we don't ever want our customers to feel intimidated or threatened at all. I mean, I remember one of the first things I learned at the CIA, and this is 30 years ago. I think I'm that old. Yeah, over 30 years ago, is I was taught a lot of folks are intimidated, for example, by French wines. They don't know how to pronounce the wine, and so they might order a Merlot just because of the principle, because they can't pronounce, a long French word or, a certain grape and so on and so forth. So it's just a balance, if we were at a Michelin star restaurant and we're going to have sommeliers and captains and so on and so forth, that's going to be a little more sophisticated, and I would expect to have a little bit more of wine pairing and more suggestive selling and so on and so forth. Here at Ship to Shore, we have an amazing wine that Shane's created. At the same time, we do have customers that look for us to suggest wines, and that's also what Shane specializes in. And obviously, I also hop in on those situations as well.
So you're a real team that way. So if you're looking for some inspiration, you might call upon each other to say, "Hey, what do you think about this with that?" Would you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it goes vice versa. Whereas I might say, hey, what is like the flavor profile of this dish? Because I may not get the chance to try everything before he puts it on a special. So that it works both ways like that.
I mean, there's no restaurant in the world that's not working without a team. You have to have a team.
100%.
The food, the management, the waiters, the wine, it all comes together.
Yeah. So how do you build that team? How do you make sure that the team dynamic is strong and healthy?
Communication, hard work, consistency. Number one thing is being consistent from cleanliness to, the right forks, the wine glass, water glass, details is what makes it work. At the same time, once again, having such a long history and being in a casual American bistro does help. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be so formal. When it comes to, say, for example, white tablecloths, we would rather put our money and time and energy into the food and into the wine.
Yeah. And it sounds like, I mean, even without the white tablecloths, and you say it's casual, but yet there's a ton of care and attention and orientation to detail in executing that casual feeling, which is a real art, I think.
Yeah, it took a long time to create our concept. Yes, the culinary arts part of Ship to Shore. Yes, that's pretty much where it all began, is from culinary arts. But at the same time, doing business in Kingston, New York is very tricky, understanding the balance, because we do have locals that are very educated on food and wine. At the same time, we have a lot of farmers. We have a lot of folks, regular blue-collar folks that love to come to Ship to Shore for anniversaries and birthday parties, special occasions. And they do consider us a very eclectic and or high-end restaurant, where I might call it an American bistro. Learning how to balance out all the customers has been tricky over the years. Keeping simple things for some folks and having more eclectic things for other folks. And at the same time, Shane's, management skills on training the waiters to make sure the customers are happy and they feel comfortable and they don't feel threatened. And at that point, when it's time to order wine, they're not going to be ashamed or afraid to order it, or even ask for a suggestion.
I think that's the way the wine list is kind of set forth, is to make the guests feel a little bit more comfortable, because it is a bistro. Samir already mentioned kind of long French or Italian names maybe sounding intimidating. Just doing something as simple as labeling it just as the grape may just take that edge off a little bit, instead of having to feel like, intimidated, they're going to pronounce it wrong and make a fool out of themselves at the table.
Mm-hmm. So how do you so modifying like the menu, like you just said, rather than like Montepulciano d'Abruzzo, maybe we forget about that whole thing, but how do you make people feel more at ease with your wine list?
Well, for me, I think just kind of talking them in terms of like what they first, getting an idea of what they like is really important, and then trying to get something that is not too far out of their comfort zone. But also just kind of using general flavor profiles that I find just makes it a lot easier, as opposed to trying to talk about the soil type and how much oak treatment this wine has. And the guests, most of them, I would say, don't care about that at all.
No.
They might care about the flavor profile. They might find a cool backstory about the wine interesting. But as far as like those technical details, they don't want to hear about that. And that goes from working at a bistro up to like Michelin star restaurants. I've found that pretty much everywhere I've worked is the same, in the sense that there may be a few wine geeks that might want to have that conversation with you, but they're like really few and far between.
That's so fascinating, Shane. And yeah, even up to the level of a Michelin restaurant, even when you are in that category, it still is about the story.
Mhm.
It's about the emotions and it's about the experience that you're having with the wine. That's, yeah, I can so appreciate that. So tell me, what's the favorite thing that you've introduced recently into the menu? What's a new special or a new feature that you've created recently?
Um, well, as you know, we change our menu daily. I mean, yes, we have our fixed menu. And once again, like going back to doing business in Kingston is understanding the balance from really sophisticated diners and your palates and folks that are very simple and they want simple food. And I think that's part of our success is learning how to be able to balance taking care of our locals, which is number one, and at the same time taking care of our tourists. I don't even know if we should call them tourists anymore because half
Yeah,
of New York City just moved into
they're
Hudson
moving
Valley
in. Yeah.
or Kingston. So I guess it's going to be the new norm.
Yeah.
But back to answering your question, new dishes. I mean, right now we're in harvest season, so I love harvest. You know, so every day
Yeah.
there's heirloom tomatoes on the menu, patty pan squash, and so on and so forth. Um, Obviously, during this whole COVID environment, it's tricky also to find certain products. You know, there's been
Mm.
shortages, and anything that's going to be shipped, obviously from overseas, for example, Bronzino has been an issue. It's been kind of up and down. We're experimenting with this new, you know, with different fishes. Barramundi happens to be a great success. We've always ran Barramundi as a fish special, but now it's all of a sudden become a staple on our menu, which wouldn't have happened without this COVID thing and wouldn't happen without this Bronzini shortage. So, for
Aha.
example, tonight we're doing beautiful local heirloom tomatoes, a nice pan-seared barramundi, and a barramundi kind of reminds me almost like a black sea bass. Keep the skin on,
Oh,
crisp it up, so you kind of have like a little sea bacon, nice crispy skin on that. Really, 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 really simple. We got local peaches that came in. Literally, I was just in the just in the kitchen. I probably have peach juice all over me. But we're in the kitchen making a peach pico de gallo. And once again, okay, so now we have heirloom tomatoes with little balsamic. Now you're having beautiful barramundi, crispy skin. Okay. At the same time, now you're adding a little peach pico de gallo. So you have the acidity, a little bit of jalapeno, the sweetness from the peaches. Now you have a taste of the sea, local heirloom tomatoes. What wine do you pair with that?
you're killing me, Samir. You're
Anything,
killing me.
anything. I mean, personally, I mean, I don't know, any red, any white, anything would go with it. Personally, I would probably, if it was my starter, I would probably do something out in New Zealand. I love those Marlborough, region Marlborough Sauvignon Blancs. As for a red, a rosé, even I think you can go with
Mm.
a prosecco. I mean, so it's endless. So going back to white wine with fish, that's a perfect example of an exception because look at the big bold flavors you're getting.
Yeah.
Where yes, if it was 1980 and you're having that simple stuffed flounder with lemon and it's very light, no, then I kind of would purposely pair it with the simple white, but at the same time something that complex with those flavors, there's so many which ways you can go.
Oh,
So
that's a
that helps.
brilliant example. Yeah, I mean, that is completely petulant in every way. Yeah, I love it. I love it. And now tell me about how you inject your heritage into your culinary creativity because you're part Latvian, part Moroccan, born in New York City, trained at the Culinary Institute of America. Wow. How does
Yeah,
that manifest in your creativity?
I mean, I grew up with it. I guess what you call it an interesting refrigerator. um, it's funny. I also lived in Morocco for about a year when I was very young, when I was about 10 years old. But both my parents were great cooks. And both my parents came from countries that were very, very poor. So peasant food, as everyone's favorite food, usually is derived from some sort of peasant food, grandma's meatloaf to whatever. But my refrigerator, for example, from the Latvian side would always be smoked eel and smoked fishes, kind of similar to Jewish food even. But we'd have that. We'd have liverwurst, liver pâtés, very simple, cabbage, sauerkrauts, pickles. So that would be kind of in my fridge, you know. And then my dad, you know, of course, couscous. You know, everyone we did eat couscous as kids. Ratatouille was a big thing. You know, my dad didn't call it ratatouille. I didn't even realize it was ratatouille until I went to the culinary. I called it eggplant. Just because, you know, he chopped up eggplant, zucchini, squash, tomato, saffron. So then we had all these crazy flavors. And when I grew up as a little kid, I remember living in Queens. My parents had split up at this time. So my mom had to work, single mom. We didn't have a lot of food in the fridge, but there were all kinds of little knickknacks. So if I was hungry, I used to just kind of create, which kind of drove me to just start cooking and same thing when I went to my dad's house, you know, same thing. There was all kinds of, you know, I always use the sardine story, you know, but both dip spectrums. In Morocco, we had sardines, and it was always with a little bit of olive oil and saffron or a taste of tomato. Latvian sardines, you can still go to the supermarket, believe it or not, today, and still see Moroccan sardines and Latvian sardines, still to this time. Where the Latvian sardines would be with just simple olive oil or a little bit of, you know, pickled flavor, you know. So I always grew up with these extreme flavors, you know, and it just kind of drove me to, and then, like I said, being able to take a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and just kind of just drove me to start cooking and enjoy cooking. And like I said, both my parents were good cooks. You know, my mom cooked great. My father cooked great. My grandmother cooked great. So I was always fortunate enough to be surrounded by all these, you know, ethnic foods, which was fabulous, you know. However, my kids aren't so interested in it, I guess. You know,
that was my next question.
They're just not as interested as I am, but different times, I guess, too. But
True, sure, yeah. That I was going to ask you if your kids are interested in cooking or loving this different food.
You know, I have 3 kids, and yes, 2 out of 3 are a little more willing to try new things. My youngest one is not so, but my youngest one is also, I think, going to be my restaurant worker. She's my worker bee, and she's not stage fright. She's willing to work at Ship to Shore and be out there and so on. So, and as you know, in the restaurant business, we're on stage.
She makes appearances as a busboy every now and then.
Yes, but when she wants something from the store, a new toy, she knows what to do. She comes to work and she does bust. And plus, her little hands fit in the wine glasses with polish the glasses, which always help out. You know? But having Shane on board actually is a big plus. And, you know, it's only been a few. You know, we have a history of over 20 years also with Shane starting here and then being in California for all those years and so on and so forth. But one of my personal weaknesses is wine knowledge. You know, I can get through, and yes, I do understand my wines and what I sell, but there's a lot more room for growth here at Ship to Shore with wine, and that's going to be a bonus. And Ashley, I'm sure you'll meet Shane in the near future, but that's going to be a bonus in the next few years to come as Shane and I get to start working together, and especially building on a better wine list and doing exactly what you're talking about, if it's pairing wine or suggestive sales or just letting people enjoy what they want to drink.
Or even tasting events once we're able to gather again.
Yes.
You know? Yeah.
Yes.
So Shane, what's something that you want to bring, like that you're an idea that's just wanting to come out, that you want to bring a new, not change, but a new, like an innovation that you want to bring to Ship to Shore from your experience in California?
Well, I mean, obviously probably more California wines, but you know, besides that, I think just being able to have these more kind of eclectic, obscure wines without being intimidating to the guest at all, and maybe just getting people out of their comfort zone a little bit. That would be something that I would enjoy, you know, as opposed to the same old Pinot Grigio. You know, maybe they try something else this time, you know, another really cool white from somewhere else in Europe, like a Brunner Veltliner or something.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of unpronounceable grapes, right?
Yes, exactly. I think that's trying to do that, but without making it intimidating. We're still trying to keep that casual environment. So
Yeah, yeah. And I think when people are comfortable and there's that trust, they will try something new and they'll let you guide them. Yeah. So how long has it been that you're, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just saying, yeah, absolutely, that's definitely true. But also, I think in regards to something else is we've already talked about is trying to maybe do some more of these wine pairings just to make it more of a destination where people go to thinking, oh, wine's the first thought. Obviously the food is great here, so I think just maybe making some little changes like that would be nice.
That sounds really exciting. And I think, now we've been locked down and isolated and we're finally being able, to come out and enjoy and see friends again and experience the hospitality and explore some new flavors, rather than what we've just been cooking at home all these months.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think that's bodes well. It sounds like a lot of exciting, good times to come at Ship to Shore.
Mhm.
Well,
Yes.
yeah. Thank you guys very much for taking the time today. I know you're getting ready for service because you're 3 hours ahead of us. And you don't need someone to come rescue you from that location, right?
No,
No, we're good.
we're good.
We're good. Okay. We're in a chef's office. So the glamour, like you said, you're on stage and this is backstage. This is where the chefs do the work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So thank you again, everyone. This is Samir Hrichi and Shane McDermott, the CIA trained chef owner of Ship to Shore and the new general manager. Ship to Shore, an American bistro in Kingston, New York. If you're ever in New York State, you've got to drive a little bit upstate, and do not miss this restaurant because it really, really merits the time.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Bye, Esther.
Bye-bye.